Free roam podcast. Hi everybody.
I think Disney's gonna sue us once, so I have to go for a royalty-free song next time.
Yeah, we
I
gotta.
think that's smarter.
Yeah, we can find one. We can find one. Oh, we're back. We're back. It's me, your boy Luke, with Joe Raptor, of course, with his name above his head, and we have a special guest. Why don't you introduce yourself for us?
Hello, what's up? My name is Joyce. I'm one of the content creators, editors for the Raptor channel. So
Yeah.
we're here to talk about a lot of fun stuff. So hey, I'm here, and
Yeah, Joyce has been working for me for the first video she did was when she was still in college.
yes.
And it was the Discovery Tour video for Assassin's Creed Origins.
That
Ooh.
is indeed correct.
Oh, that's
Yes.
like 2008, 2018,
Was before
February.
COVID.
Yeah. It was.
That's great. I think I actually saw that video because I am a huge Egypt stan, of course. I mean, I literally have a pyramid behind me. But Origins I love dearly, and I remember being curious about the Discovery Tour and looking it up and looking up videos on it. So who knows, maybe I saw that video but way back when it launched, because the Discovery Tour is actually pretty cool in those games.
Yeah, it started there. Although they totally evolved it. I think still the Valhalla iteration was the coolest because they actually made some story related quest. If you like go back to the Origins one, it's cool to like walk around as the different characters, but like it was really museum style, where it was like back in the time the people live like it was like not very exciting, right? Like
I need you to do the voiceover for one of these.
Yeah.
Begging, right? Yeah.
The pyramids were made by the slaves of the. So yeah, that was kind of like, it's also like fine. And you had to do all of them to get the white Senu skin, the first bird skin that they added, and then they were like, wait, we can sell these as well.
That's what happened. Great idea. And then just everything after
that. Imagine the Discovery Tour for Shadows.
Yeah, it's gonna happen probably. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, it has to be. They have to keep the tradition alive.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to.
They got it, because then they can be like, oh yeah, we're selling the game to people in like schools and stuff, so we're helping educate people. It's not just a video game. Then they can be like, it's not just a video game, it's an important game. And then you're justified with everything else. So what we're doing, we have our guest here to talk about Star Wars Outlaws, because Joe Raptor has been a naughty boy. Why don't you confess to your sins for everybody?
I played 6 hours of Star Wars Outlaws before launch, but not the full version. No, I've been playing a lot of Wukong, like the monkey game, and I'm totally obsessed with that. And that code came at the same time as Star Wars Outlaws last week, and I was like, yeah, we had like a huge sponsorship for the game as well, so we had to be fully focused on it. And the videos have been doing very well. So at one point I was like, I'm loving this way too much. After the preview, I was kind of like, I now just want to play it to be like more informed at where Ubisoft is at as like a company with their open world games, more so than I'm actually excited to play it. And then I was like, but I don't have to play it. Whoa, what a concept. And then I was like, Joyce, throw you in the fire. No. Joyce was excited,
This is exactly how it happened.
Yeah. So that's why Joyce is here to share her thoughts as the Joe Raptor team member. And I mean, if people are curious what I think about the game, I think you can just watch my preview from the 4 hours. All the sort of things that I said there, where like, oh, you only have your blaster. I'm kind of worried that you won't have enough upgrades for that. The reputation system, I'm worried that the impact won't be as that you can like very easily manipulate it. All that sort of stuff, I mean, from what I've been seeing from the reviews, has kind of been coming through, and that sucks to see. I think right now, and I might be wrong, I will of course at one point play it. I right now don't see myself getting surprised by that game, and that is kind of holding me. And then I'm playing Wukong, which is like every chapter is getting better than the last. The bosses, there's actually some more of a story to it as well, like some really fun characters. The amount of depth in terms of armor sets that really change some play styles, like a new weapon that gives you a brand new move set. That are all secret. Like there's so many secret bosses and areas in that game that just I'm like really really excited about that game. I'm really happy with how that is turning out, better than I even expected. I thought it was going to be great, but I thought it was going to be very linear with some side stuff. But there's actually, if you don't do the optional stuff, you're missing out on like 50% of the game, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of my defense. So here,
I judge him
Joyce.
guilty.
Yeah.
Joel Raptor not playing an open world Ubisoft game. What is?
It's like I said before the show. I think this is the first time since I have the channel that I've not played a Ubisoft game, a Ubisoft open world game before launch and made like a lot of videos on it. But yeah, a lot other things like the release date. Looking at it, also looking at the amount of bugs that seem to be still present. I'm really like curious why they picked this date and why not move it to September, because that is a way quieter time. Like I still think a lot of people slept on Wukong. I don't think Ubisoft thought it was going to be this big. But still, like, why have this be the release date if it was clearly in some parts not very finished, and you have Shadows in November, so it's not going to hurt that, you would think, if you drop it at the end of September. But that's just my 2 cents, and I'm gonna shut up now because again I've not played it. You guys can talk.
Yeah, I mean,
let the experts talk about this.
Yeah, silence, peasant. The adults are talking. Yes. So obviously, like, I've rambled about the game a lot, and I'm excited to chat with you about it. But why don't you give everybody kind of your broad strokes thoughts on it, Joyce? What you thought of it, strengths, weaknesses, all that stuff.
Ooh, well, I gotta be honest. I played it on PS5, and I played it in performance mode because I prefer 60 FPS over the 30 over the 31. So I was really excited to go in there. I mean, I've been just like I've played some hours before launch. I had the honor to go to LA, try the game out, and now jumping into it. Well, I can totally say if I compare it to the PC version, I'm like, what happened? The performance mode on PS5 compared to the PC version, it doesn't look great. I was so confused because like when I played it in LA, I was really excited because it was on a PC, obviously, and it looked so pretty and there was so much to do, and I was like, I'm looking forward to play this game when I get it on PS5 because the quality would. Sure, if you have like a really top-notch PC, then it would obviously look better on PS5. But it's a powerful console. It should at least be at some quality point, right? And I got in there, and some cutscenes were like that. I'm like, and even a lot of cutscenes were even played on quality, so they were just 30 FPS anyway, because the quality was higher even. So that's probably the thing to start with. What kind of disappointed me at some point. And I was like, it could have been better. I don't know if you agree with me on this one, Luke. Have you played on PC?
I think he is a PC boy.
Yeah, I'm a PC boy. Well, I was told.
Have you seen the console version though? Have you seen it?
In the last day or so, I've looked up the performance metrics and things people have done on console versions, and it is. In some cases, especially night and day. Other times it's just like, oh yeah, this is definitely the console version compared to PC. The PC version does look very, very good. There's some confusion, I think, where on the PC version, we got access to it last week at some point. And then I think it was Friday afternoon, they sent out like a 7-8 gig patch. And then we also got the NVIDIA graphics driver update. And both of those greatly improved my experience with the game. Prior to that, I had a whole section in the video review where I was going to be talking about a lot of the graphical bugs I had. I had this weird thing when you went to Tatooine where if you walked towards the camera, you'd see like meshes flickering and then Kay's hair would kind of freak out and stuff. And after the patch, that no longer happened for me. So I cut it out of the review because it's not really fair to be like, this thing won't happen to you, but let me complain about it, So
the review was even longer The review was even longer.
Yeah, it would have been
You
longer.
cut things out.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Damn it.
It's I was worried about the console version though, because I had heard rumblings about it, and we saw that
Yeah.
that 10-minute IGN footage that looked real bad like a month or so ago.
That was our first look at console footage.
Yeah. Well, I don't think did they ever confirm if
No.
that was?
I think it was PC, but I just still don't get who gave the green light to that.
Yeah, it was pretty rough. I mean,
Crazy.
in your experience, Joyce, like, I'm gonna put you on the line here. Number score, where would you put it right now, and what would they have to do to improve that score?
Oh boy. I think when I streamed the game on, was it Monday? Yeah.
Yes.
When I streamed the game on Monday, I got that question a lot, and then I was like halfway through the game, I think. Right now, I think in terms of like overall, I think I will go, just because I liked the main story so far, I go for 7.5 out of 10. I wanted to give it an 8, but just because I had like, I had a lot of bugs during my playthrough. One that even broke the game that I had to like force quit, which was really annoying. But also like graphical wise, I think there were some points where I was like, oh, that could have done better. But like overall, like I don't want to like butcher the game, because there are a ton of things that I want to discuss like that were pretty good about it. That like at least get the visuals better, or some at some point. I heard they added a 40 FPS mode now on PS5. I haven't seen it yet, or tried it out yet. But yeah, I just get some more bugs out of the way, like including the game breaking ones. I saw this article, I think from IGN. I spotted it that currently some people cannot continue the game because with the current patch, because they're stuck at some point in the story.
Wow.
And I was like, oh,
It was a PlayStation issue where they were asked to restart the game.
Pretty weird. Dude, I had that for Alan Wake 2. I got to like 40 minutes from the end credits. 40 minutes. And they had that moment, I don't know if you played the game, but like you have to line up the circles, and then they line up, and then like dialogue plays and the door unlocks. And I had that where no matter what you did, you couldn't line up the circles. It just would never trigger to let you through. And it was a known issue, and they fixed it like right at launch, but they're like, yeah, it's just like it's a problem, so you just got to start over. It's like, what? Like, yeah, you just got to like start over. Like just replay the game for the last 40 minutes. It's like, I can't do that, guys. Come on. What are we doing? So I mean, it's really unfortunate that on the PC I can go through, and I only ever had one thing I would consider to be a bug, which was when I jumped down to do a stealth takedown. The footage is in the video, but I jumped down to do a stealth takedown on somebody, and then Kay like clips into a pile of garbage basically that was right behind her when she does that. And I just like reloaded from checkpoint, and it was fine. And I never had anything else I would consider to be a bug other than god awful AI, but I think that's more of a mechanical
feature.
issue. Yeah, that's more of a feature at this point.
I mean, I don't think they're gonna change that. Actually, I think you wanted that right. I don't see, like, I've never seen a Ubisoft game where they, after the fact, go and improve the AI.
I think
maybe
it's
like for Valhalla in the second year of the post-launch, they improved the stealth a bit, but that was mostly for Mirage. So
I think there is, and I talk about it in the review at length, but at a lot of length. But I think that the AI is something that was just a reality of what they were working with, and they realized this is just what it is. And so they started designing stuff around it. They designed encounters, missions, because during the previews that Jor and I played, and Joyce, you played it as well, like there were segments of the game we got to play where there's like, oh, it's a room, and then there's two guards, and you take them out stealthily, so they never are, probably shouldn't be alerted to you. So you never get to see the AI dealing with a tricky situation, or dealing with a situation where they're standing back there, and then you take somebody out here, and because Kay doesn't take anybody out stealthily, she just like punches them in the side of the skull. They should have heard that, but they don't hear that. So like you never got the chance to really see it. And I remember during the previews or after the previews talking about how I felt that it seemed as though the stealth and the AI was not where I was hoping it would be. And then the main game was so much worse. In your experience on PS5, is it that bad as well, or is it?
It really depends what you're going for, because indeed, like at some point, I had some really great stuff for Nyx, because Nyx is kind of, he can help you out in a ton of stuff. There are even some puzzles where you have to use him, but like in combat, there is this one ability for him where you can actually like attack an enemy and then they'll shoot at people like a sort of berserk effect. And then I was like, oh, maybe it's just only happening in that area. No, the whole camp gets alerted. Like everybody, like I mean, I get it because of the shots, but just like everybody, like even like further away, is like, oh well, I guess if I really want to cause mayhem, then I do that. But sometimes in stealth, yeah, I mean, it was a 50-50 kind of deal. I think in the Imperial bases, I got that sort of vibe that sometimes the AI didn't clock that well. But for the most part, I think it was all right. But that was just because I tried to go in stealthily. And at some point, if I did get caught, then I was like, yeah, well, okay, I'll just shoot everybody.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
And like in my experience, the reason in my review in the like TLDR, I basically said, if you play through a normal difficulty, in my opinion, this is like a 6. I think it like the AI can get so stupid and so bad that it's actively distracting and kind of like, it really spoils any sense of immersion you might have felt with the other things that work well in the game. But what I found worked for me was cranking the difficulty and the settings up. So damage output up, enemy, everything just to the highest level. And it made it so I didn't have time to react to the god awful AI, because every time they started like getting aggroed to me, I had to frantically deal with the problem. So you didn't ever have time to notice that, oh, there's a dead body laying on the floor and they're just like walking around. And then they get the little yellow question mark. Oh,
yeah,
Tim's dead. Okay, and then they just keep going.
You must have the flu.
Yeah, and I think it's just they had these systems set up. I don't even know like how many years ago, but years ago, and then they just started making the game with what it was, and they didn't really have a means of improving it.
And this was the Division team, of course. They never had to deal with stealth. It was always go into an encounter and the enemies will immediately start shooting at you. So I think that's why they were kind of satisfied with the systems they had. But that's kind of a lot of question marks that I also saw. It's like, how can all these games be made by the same company? But it feels like they're always a step backwards, while another game that they released 5 years ago has already figured this out.
Yeah.
Why are we still in this situation? And another thing, where what you said, Joyce, with the Berserk. What, can you not think of something else? We had the freaking Berserk darts in one of the early Assassin's Creed games, where they would hallucinate, look around, and then be like, "Oh, I'm now gonna fight my friends for the duration of this effect." Why does every game have to have this? I mean, it's cool, but think of something new as well. And that's what I really saw, is that there were not a lot of new ideas brought to this Ubisoft formula. And the same happened kind of with Avatar. And I think it's kind of wild that we're here. And I think some people could make a case that Avatar might actually be the better game.
Well, you know what I found very
Okay, Luke is very quiet.
You know what I found very interesting? Have you played the minigame, Luke? The one with Nyx?
Which?
The food stall minigame?
Oh, sorry, you cut out the what?
The food stall minigame.
Oh, yes.
We couldn't play it during the preview, because I think they locked it out on purpose, and I kind of get why. Because when I played it, I don't know if you have the same experience as me. When I first played it, I was like, oh, yes, nice. I can finally see what this is all about. And I just look at it, I was like, am I playing Final Fantasy?
Yep. There's less music. There's not a whole lot of dancing while it's happening.
Yeah, so to explain it a little bit, it's a rhythm. It's a kind of rhythm minigame. But it's kind of, I also had a feeling like I was back with playing Heavy Rain, but not like shaking the controller, but just like shaking the buttons at a certain angle. Have you tried them all the food stalls? Because there comes a great reward out of it, because Nyx gets like perks and stuff that you can add. But I was just like, what am I playing? I like it, but I find it very interesting choice.
It's very different. I have it on screen for anybody watching at home, but basically, like Joyce said, there's different ones for each world and planet and city. I'm not actually sure if I've seen them all, but I've gotten, I very well could be all of them. And for me, I think because this was so not Ubisoft, I actually really liked it because it was very, very different. And it's, the typical Ubisoft way of doing it, I think, would have been, oh, you opened a chest and you found Nyx's charm number 4, and then you just hang it up from one of her ears or whatever, and now Nyx can kick grenades away from you in combat and stuff. But instead, they did this in a more creative way where you're actually like bonding with Nyx, and it's actually a fairly high effort
this look
sequence.
Pretty good.
Yeah. And like,
and I say like I was just like you said, I was thrown off guard because I didn't expect Ubi to come up with something like this. Like I was like, wait, was I playing Final Fantasy? Or Heavy Rain? Like the it was really cute as well because they're not all the same. There are like 4 food stalls. You can find them over the around the planet, so you can find one on Tatooine and then on Genie, etc., etc. And they're really cute. And but it was just like, oh, okay. Yeah. I kind of dig it.
Yeah, I actually said in a tweet, I said, these are seriously some of my favorite moments in the entire game. They're simple, cute, build relationships with Nyx, and the meal you get afterwards can be used to give Nyx new gameplay abilities like kicking grenades away when they land near you. And I think it's just, for me, what was so interesting about it was that it was so not Ubisoft, and it was kind of refreshing to see. Unfortunately, like, there's not a whole lot of sequences like that, but I mean, Jor, it's funny because Jor's like looking at it from the previews and feeling like they really don't do a whole lot different from
this
old
was not
Ubisoft
in the
games.
previews.
This was not in the previews, certainly.
No.
But there's been, I think it was The Guardian, maybe they did a review where they said that, oh, it tries too hard to not be like Ubisoft games, and that's why it's not very good. So it's very interesting where it feels like some people have had experiences where they feel like it has too much Ubisoft DNA. Other people say that it doesn't have enough and that they changed too much. And I mean, on the whole, we're still talking about a game that's getting like C+, B- range. Like, there's a lot of people that are going to enjoy it. And while it's got plenty of issues that we can point to, what I said in my review, and I don't know if Joyce, you feel this way, but I said at the very outset of my review that I feel like it's more than the sum of its parts. Like, there's a lot of problems. There's a lot of things I can point to that I don't like. But after finishing it, there's a lot of things that I look back on that I did enjoy, and I did have fun. And if I could like wipe it from my memory and play it again, I think I would. I don't think it's bad. I just don't think it's particularly remarkable or anything, which some people would say is just like a Ubisoft special, but it's,
I was a little like, I was butchering the quality and the bugs at the start, of course, but like what you said, I totally agree with. Like, overall, I think it's, I'm nearly finishing it, the main story, because there's still like a lot that I want to discover. Because I think that's the fun part. Like, the planets are like really big, and I think Akiva is one of the most impressive ones I've seen. It's just a shame that the performance mode doesn't do it justice. Like, I have to look on the PC version how beautiful it actually is. But overall, there are some. Yeah, I think I would say I had fun playing it. Even streaming it on Monday was really fun to do also with people like in chat. Also, the syndicate system was eventually you get like more interested, or at least I did. I got more interested in Crimson Dawn, for example, because they really play a big part in this one.
Especially towards the end, yeah.
Yes, towards the end, really. And also the expert system, how to get new abilities. Like, at some point you get like, there is a hidden expert in there, and I was really curious to find that one. So that curiosity like triggered me, and I like that. Like, I get sidetracked a lot. That's why usually Jordan pushes.
Yeah, my job was Joyce, focus on the main story, and I think she played probably more than you, Luke, but still not done because it's like, oh, there's a shiny thing over there.
There's some people that play games like that. Some people go through the main story and then they hit like all the side content after that.
Yeah.
Other people, they try to do all the side stuff before hitting the like point of no return. So some people they play it differently. I will say, like, the faction system you mentioned, it is easily manipulatable, as Jor kind of speculated beforehand, which is just kind of an artifact of turning something like this into a video game. Like, it's always going to be manipulatable. There's plenty of instances also where you have, for example, like a really bad reputation with Crimson Dawn. Even it goes all the way down to terrible. Like, they hate you, they see you, they send bounty hunters to kill you. Like, they hate you. And even still, they will, like, you'll get prompted with quests, and the Crimson Dawn leadership will be like, hey, Kay, can you help us out? We have a depot we need you to raid. And you're like, you hate me. What are you why are you talking to me? And now, to be fair, they do have an outcome for most of those quests where at the very end, let's say you raid the depot, you get the thing Crimson Dawn wanted. They give you the option to go and deliver it instead to the Hutts, screwing over the Crimson Dawn even more and making the Hutt reputation go up. But, like, I still can't ignore the fact that I should have never been contacted to begin with. I have a terrible reputation with them. Why are they talking to me? I understand it's like, it's a video game, so you kind of have to turn that part of your brain off. But there were many instances like that where I feel like the way they wanted you to play this, or the way they expect people to play this, is that you have sort of an okay relationship with everybody for most of the game. And it's at the very end where you'll kind of pick where you specialize. Which is fine, because maybe most players do play it that way. I will say your reputations with the factions will affect the ending. And so it does affect how things play out, but
that's cool.
I'm not sure in practice. I mean, you said you're almost done with it. What are your reputations like with the factions? Are you about in the middle with everybody, or are you pretty extreme?
Well, I was focused on the Hutts at first because I really wanted to get that max out. I wanted to get that suit, that outfit that they had. Also because that was my first task from the start to get with the Hutts. No, right now I think, if I have to, I think the Pikes is bad, but the rest is all like good at this point. Like I think the Hutts went down because I did something stupid on stream. But they're all like, I think only the Pikes is bad and the rest is all good. But I do get what you mean, because when my Pikes relationship was bad, I did get like, I did get contacted like, hey, we have this quest for you, a peace offering. And I was like, oh, is this because my relationship is bad and I kind of want to, push it up again? But it was just like, yeah, I need you to do this for me. I do think Kay sometimes mentions when she's like, oh yeah, I'm really good with these people, I can do this. Or like, my relationship with the Crimson Dawn is currently not that great. She does mention that, but only during like syndicate quests and not main quests. She doesn't mention any of it. It's just like, oh, do I need to do that? Okay.
And I will say, I mean, oh, go for it. Go for it.
No, the person who hasn't played it that wants to say something as well. No, I just wonder why because you would think that it could be really cool that, I mean, they have this system in place where certain things trigger based on your current reputation. So it could be like, okay, if you're bad or terrible, you do not get that quest. But maybe it was too hard to have it then trigger again when you're good. Or maybe it would be too complicated with the guide saying, go here, then you get the mission. And then you go there, you're like, what the heck, I don't get. I'm just curious why they didn't go for that, because that seems pretty obvious, right?
You are locked out with contracts of a certain faction when you're bad with them. I had like with the Crimson Dawn that I could not pick up contracts from the Crimson Dawn because my relationship was bad with them. So
okay, but you can still go to the contract broker in the cantina, right? And then you can still pick up a Crimson Dawn contract. You can just not do it in their hideout.
Or you can pick up the Crimson Dawn contract, but it'll be a lower quality one, because basically, for everybody that hasn't seen the footage of it, some contracts will be like paying out 300 credits, but then the 1,000 credit payout ones are the better quests, and they also give you better loot and stuff. Those are often locked behind better relationships, so they do lock some
what are the objectives for those, though? Because during interviews we had a couple of times them like kind of teasing how cool those contracts were, and then I tried one during the preview and I was like, this is just Watch Dogs Legion, where I go into a camp, download some footage or whatever, and then get out.
Yeah,
are there higher ones cooler?
There's one that you're gonna love
Oh.
and I'm saying this very sarcastically. There was one that I didn't realize. You have to pick up a package, then or run all the way across the camp to go to a certain point because it's a deliver mission. Between a certain time, there's like a timer in the corner. I see, you guys see Jordan's face. He's looking forward to it.
You're not making me want to play this. I made the right decision, maybe.
No, but there are also some quests where you have to go into orbit. So you have to go into space to do some stuff. So it's varied, but also not very varied. If you get my meaning.
In a lot of ways, it's exactly what you'd think. Like, it's a Ubisoft open world. Like, there's fetch quests galore. There's a lot of go to the camp and do that.
We have to talk about the freaking cosmetic rewards. How can no one? We talked about this before the like launch as well in the other episodes. There has to be someone at Lucasfilm or like LucasArts, like someone at Disney who also worked on Fallen Order and Survivor, who's now helping with this game, right? And we still have the speeder skin, the scar for Nyx, the paint job for our gun. That's the recolor for our Trailblazer.
So did you want new haircuts? I think that would have unironically helped the game if there were new haircuts.
Oh yeah, but
a lot of people teased her haircut. Yeah.
God, yeah. This is my mistake. I asked the game director in my interview if we could change her hairstyle, and he was very vague about it. So I was kind of I was like, I had my hopes up.
He said we want to keep some surprises. Like that, you don't say that if it's not in the it's surprise not in the like. You can't say that.
Got tricked.
It is funny where you ask him about this potentially decent feature, like, you know, even like a transmog in a big RPG. Hey, is there transmog in the RPG? Well, we want to keep some surprises. No.
Writing down at transmog.
Yeah, like, oh god. I think it's a lot of the little things, for example, that I think have upset some, such as the hair, which kind of made me think of it. They did some stuff in this game that is supposed to be an homage and a nod to the original films. So, for example, the haircut is supposed to be like a haircut you would have seen in a film produced in the 1980s, early 1980s. It's an 80s haircut, which is why we look at it and we're like, oh, that's kind of, it's like a, my
you make an excellent point
smoker aunt's haircut. Or other things like the way that they transition between scenes with the wipes and things like that, which are nods to the originals. I like those. Apparently, I don't know if this has been confirmed yet, but I heard people saying that some devs had mentioned the reason the explosions look the way they do is because it's an homage to the way the actual explosions were done in the films. I don't know if that's true. But this is why it's a great excuse, because whenever anything looks slightly out of date or clunky, you can just be like, well, it's a nod to those clunky movies from 50 years ago.
Then they should have had a voiceover during that IGN video, right?
Yeah.
Being like,
don't be
we
mad.
made it. Like, because otherwise it's so, again, I don't get it.
But like that's...
I
was just going to say, like, the reason I bring that up is because it's another example of how you can have a reason to do something, but that doesn't mean that players either will understand the reason or think that it justifies it. Like, if the haircut is like based in this deep artistic choice, it doesn't really matter if everybody thinks the haircut looks really stupid. Like, I can appreciate there was a reason behind it, but it doesn't really matter. Or like constant fade to blacks in Ghost of Tsushima, where they're like, oh, well, that's a nod to the old film style of the films that inspired the game. I'm like, okay, but it feels really out of date compared to these other games that do seamless transitions. So just because you have a reason to do something doesn't mean that players will necessarily.
No, but I think it's like, this is what we have. Let's spin it in a way that makes us get away with it.
I think with some of it, I think with some of it that's definitely the case. Like with, I would argue the explosions. I feel the explosions just look bad because the explosions look bad. I don't think that was like part of some grand artistic vision or anything. So I do think they're spinning. As for the haircut, I do think the reason they designed Kay the way that they did was because they were trying to give nods to the old school films. But perhaps this transitions to another thing, Joyce. I want to know if this bugs you as much as it bugs me. The pre-rendered cinematics. Did you find those jarring?
I was like, it was You mean like the cinematic ones at the start, right?
Well, and
The-
kind of mixed into the story where some are in engine and like
Yeah.
show cosmetics, and then others are fully pre-rendered, look way better, and
Yeah.
of course don't reflect the cosmetic choices you made. I found it really jarring, frankly.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. That's what I was referring to. Like some cutscenes, even when you were playing 60 FPS, like I was, the pre-rendered cutscenes were still being played in quality at 30 FPS, and I was like, okay, what's the? And then they smooth over to gameplay, and then you immediately see like, oh, there's like a downgrade on the textures, and I was like, don't do this to me.
Yeah.
Like I was like, oh, okay, maybe I should have just played the whole game on quality then.
Yeah, I
was
mean,
a little
even on PC,
Yeah.
the fully pre-rendered, because there's kind of 3 categories. So there's fully pre-rendered, where it's like a cinematic trailer. I mean, it's way better quality. And then there's the like in-game cinematic, where it's in the game but at a lower frame rate. And then they have the just like in-game cutscenes, where it's the gameplay model kind of just doing whatever. And
Yeah.
I think the reason they did the fully pre-rendered stuff occasionally is because there's 2 cutscenes I can think of. I don't know if you've seen them yet, so I won't spoil anything. But there's 2 cutscenes throughout the entire game, maybe you could say 3, where they straight up could not do it if it were running in real time. Just like straight up. Thank you, Joe Raptor. Like there's some like that. And the latter 2, one's probably 2/3 of the way through the game. Let's just say it shatters your expectations. I don't know if that maybe makes you think of anything. If not, then you probably haven't seen it yet.
Oh, I don't know. Like I mean,
I'm
maybe
playing the
I-
game now, so I'm like more. I can like talk about it. I've now played the full game. everyone.
Jor's doing homework in class right now.
This is amazing.
Yeah, I love it.
I mean, I can kind of come up with a couple of cutscenes, but like the I don't know if we are allowed to talk about like the moment where I was just like, why did they do this? The really cinematic ones at the start. I will not spoil what it is, but I was like, huh? Like, am I playing? If speaking of playing classics, like it's a homage to something. This felt like I was playing a game from like a decade ago, because you know you had like games where some like cutscenes were like really well rendered, like cinematic quality, and I was just like, okay, this is cool and all, but why? You haven't done this in years. Like why this choice? I mean, I do get it because of why the story and stuff, and maybe they had some trouble with like, I don't know, maybe rendering it. So, but also I was, I don't know, I was a little.
It's a different choice because
Yeah.
it is jarring, and I think it also later in the game I appreciate some of the cutscenes they did. So one of the reasons people oppose pre-rendered cutscenes is because it will lead to things not looking like, if you're wearing a cosmetic, if you change Kay's outfit, it's not reflected in the cutscenes. So it's just kind of like, wait, what? Oh, it's pre-rendered. Okay. It's just a little distracting. There's one later on in the game, again, about 2/3, where you straight up could not have done it running in real time with any game engine that I know of. It's a really cool sequence, but it is one that could not be done with like in real time, the way it's set up. So you'd have to change the cutscene.
I haven't seen it yet.
Okay.
I think so, but
I can't remember if it's past the point of no return or before, but it might be after.
Hey guys, I just started playing. Let's not talk about spoilers.
Let's, yeah.
But look, I don't want to like butcher this game too much. It's just like there are some choices. Yeah, I mean,
It's fun.
I still enjoyed it. Like I still had fun. Like the whole parts with Nyx is really funny. Like I really loved that mini game, and just the main story was all right as well. Like it didn't annoy me, and I think like the whole thing with ND5, that the I'm not a Star Wars nerd, so butcher me if you can. I don't know. But like the droid, I'm gonna keep it that way. He gets far more interesting the more you get to know him, and like the further you get into the story. And eventually there's also this side content, which I won't spoil, where you get to know him even more. So there's I think that was really cool about that. Why are you? I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted by your timing with A in.
This is how Joe Raptor plays games. This is why it
Yeah,
takes him so long.
It's fair. Yeah. I usually
Um,
try and get games 2 weeks early because I need 1 week to figure out the controls.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
man.
I hope the main story so far, like I think I'm almost done, is at this point it's like it didn't blow me away, but maybe it will still after the point of no return. There are some choices in there where I was like, oh, that's actually pretty cool. Like with the trailers, I think they did a sort of Marvel thing where they didn't show some stuff in the trailers because they didn't want to spoil the story, which I totally get.
Mm.
But yeah, also like the open world was really pretty. But now I wish I played it on quality at
Yeah.
some point because the performance mode didn't do it justice.
I think
Or
you
even
raised a
played it
good point though, like with feeling like we're just cutting up the game. This comes with any discussion of like reviews, and I've struggled with it a lot, where naturally, like, I feel like when I talk about a lot of games that I review, it comes off where it's just like, oh, Luke's listing 30 things he hated about the game. But that's just because like I can say, oh, I really liked the realization of Tatooine and these Star Wars locations. On PC, I think the game looks really, really good, except for some cutscenes. I appreciated the Star Wars story being pretty straightforward and not being, as you alluded to, like super cringe or stupid or anything. There were a lot of things like I liked, but those things I can just describe pretty quickly. Describing and discussing things I didn't like, we have to kind of justify it and argue why it's a problem, and that by definition will take more time. And so whenever we talk about this stuff, it can come off as we're just roasting the game, which sometimes we are, but I think it's important to keep a broader perspective, and that is that games like this are not perfect. Nobody thought this was going to be a 10 out of 10 going into it, but even when they have shortcomings and problems, they can still be fun. You can still appreciate them. You know, we were talking on stream before this, like Space Marine 2. I've played a lot of Space Marine 2 at this point at preview events and stuff. And that game has some shortcomings. It has some stuff that's going to prevent it from being like a masterpiece. It's still a damn good time, and it's still probably a recommend for a lot of people. But I think we just have to keep a broader perspective that just because game isn't perfect or even has some serious issues does not mean that it's irredeemable, in my view.
Yeah,
No, and I think overall, I mean, I like in the 5 minutes that I now played, it doesn't look very impressive. Like, I think what a lot of people, why this game will eventually end up selling very well is because the world that they created is still, yeah, really, really well done. And that was, of course, also the case with Avatar, like walking around these different planets. We have not seen that before on this, yeah, at least graphical scale. So I think that's gonna at one point sell a lot of copies. But yeah, maybe not right now. Again, right now it's like the full price. It's sadly not. It doesn't seem to be a satisfying purchase enough, or one where you can say, yeah, go out and buy it. Which, yeah, I think Ubisoft totally did expect. So I'm curious how it's gonna perform short term, but long term, I think it's gonna do just fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have to agree. Like the plans are pretty. Like I already said it on stream, and you know the stream was like the game was also really fun to play on stream with people like picking the choices for the syndicates, for example, because you get to like for the contracts to pick between them who do you want to screw over or who do you want to like be friends with. And Sabak, we haven't mentioned that yet.
Oh yeah.
I really like that, and I was like, why don't release that like standalone? It was really fun to like just get all those shift cards, you know, or let Nick's cheat. I really like that as well. I don't know, it gave me a sort of thrill. Nothing like Gwent, but from The Witcher. But yeah, I had a good time, but I tried to avoid it because there are so many tables where you can play Sabak. I know there are some side quests that you can do that involves the game. But yeah, I really enjoyed playing it. I don't know about you, Luke, how many times you played Sabak in there, but I think they did a pretty good job doing putting that game in there, like that mini game.
Yeah, that the betting tables, the I call them horse races. Horse races. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
the
can never
horse
remember what the alien name is for the alien horses.
fat. Oh god, I can't. Even,
So
sorry.
alien horses. They have like horse race betting and stuff in the game, and there are NPCs you can hear and like collect intel on some occasions where like, oh, everybody's going to throw the race and let this guy win, and they're all betting for it, and we're going to make tons of money. And so that you can, if you're paying attention while you explore the cities, you can hear stuff like that. And that's just really, really cool. I love that kind of thing. And there are a lot of those little touches in the game where you can tell like they put effort into this. They cared about it. I think there's plenty of things that don't work out. And I think probably at the end of the day, my sentiment kind of reflects what Joel Raptor alluded to earlier, which is just that so many things from Ubisoft feel like they take one step forward and then two steps back with some other stuff. And like the facial animations, the animations of NPC interactions, all significantly better in like Assassin's Creed Odyssey, for example. And then here they are just extremely inconsistent, sometimes downright bad, in my opinion. And so I hope that the improvements and investments they're making into tech can help create more consistent games as they come out. Because right now you just don't know if you're getting like the most cutting edge Ubisoft game or a game that's like 4 or 5 years behind everything else because they're using a different engine. And I think they just got to unify it and get more consistent. But
yeah, I think that the Snowdrop was just not made for this. I mean, the conversations in the Division always look bad as well. But yeah, that was not that nobody cared because it was not a huge part of it. And now in a narrative-driven game, yeah, sure, it's gonna be a way more important part. But on the other hand, like in Avatar, it looked very, very good. So,
but part of it,
yeah,
and this is like, I forget who was it? Maybe I can't remember. It was some developer talking about how a lot of these engines work, and they're like, oh, we actually get to cut a lot of corners with lip syncing in these discussions. It might have been like an early interview, ironically enough, for like Mass Effect Andromeda, but they were talking about how they didn't need to put that much effort into it because nobody really knows what an alien is supposed to look like when they're talking. So your brain is willing to like fudge it a little and blur the lines of what's real and what is reasonable.
So they're saying Kay is an alien?
If she were an alien, I think there would have been less blowback for the poor lip sync.
Yeah.
But it's
well, I do remember the early days of Andromeda and their facial expressions.
That's why it's particularly funny. That,
Oh boy!
if that's what it is, I'm not sure.
Right?
But I do think it's just
boy.
there's a lot of things that work pretty well in Outlaws. There's a lot of things, well, I would say there's a couple of very serious things that don't work well at all. But on the whole, I still had fun despite it being not amazing. And, you know, I've used the analogy before. It's a junk food game. It's a game like popping candy in your mouth or popcorn at the movie theater. It gives you no sustenance. There's nothing really there that's going to help you or give you a lot to munch on. But
I mean, Nyx
is cute.
Give it to Nyx. Nyx saved it.
Yeah, Nyx basically carries the game. I think it's just a lot of filler, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think Nyx has some. Now, Nyx is just. I mean, maybe I'm biased, but I found that he's just a very adorable creature, and he can do like a lot of cool stuff. Which some things that I was like, some abilities even that you discover, I'm like, really? That they picked that? Okay, interesting. But I just like the whole time when you distract someone and they play dead. It's very satisfying to me.
But yeah, if I'm hearing this, it sounds like we gotta wait till the PS5 Pro to play this or not.
I think
because we got some new PS5 Pro news. Yeah, I think we discussed Outlaws like yeah, I think we people understand it. It's a game. I want to say one more thing. I expected more. When they revealed the first gameplay, I was like, this is gonna be it. Division 2 is really, really good. That game got really high scores. Like, of course, the post-launch kind of fell off, but the initial like going to the max level was really, really well done. That's like an 82 on Metacritic, which is very high for these types of games. And so I had like very high hopes for this team. So yeah, I'm overall kind of sad looking at these reviews. I really thought, okay, Ubisoft Star Wars, like I remember before we knew what this game was, the sort of a lot of people already thought, okay, yeah, I want to explore these planets. I want to fly and go where I want to. Yeah, the ideas in your head, a Ubisoft open world Star Wars game, I think were way cooler than sadly what this ended up being. And I think that that's overall at the end of the day sad, because they had a huge budget, and I wish they went more like in depth in the gameplay department, and yeah, put some more effort into that. And yeah. That's overall my take. How can I mean, I really like especially the Star Wars games, and I feel like I'm sitting here, I'm not missing a lot, and I think that that's kind of a weird situation to be in for a big game like this.
Yeah, I think for me, maybe the main takeaway is you can have all the prettiest coats of paint, you can have beautiful environments, you can have a huge IP, but if the fundamentals are not robustly implemented, something as simple as just the AI for enemies, your game can only go so far, because no matter how pretty it is, how easy it is to get lost within it, the effort with the writing and the little stories and intel to be found, all anybody's going to be able to talk about is that how stupid the guards are when you're trying to stealth around a base. And
hey, but photo mode is great.
Photo mode is pretty good in there. Yeah.
Photo mode, I have to admit, that's the last thing I'm gonna say about it, because people who know me, they know my virtual photography love. It's better than the Assassin's Creed one, because I was like, oh, Ubisoft is known for like a pretty average photo mode in my opinion. Right now, they actually like did put some nice stuff in there. I just wish that the quality was a bit higher, that I could like create cool pictures with it. But yeah, that's the last final thing that I was like, that's cool about it. I think it's not bad, but it's not like knocking it out of the park either. It's a little like in between. It's a fun game, like you said, a junk food game. I find that really interesting.
Yeah, it's like, you know, you can enjoy popcorn. If you have too much of it, you'll get sick, but it's just enough to keep you engaged and to maybe enjoy it a little bit, but it's never going to replace a steak dinner. You know, it's still, there's a place for it, I think, but it's not going to replace like the heavy
if
hitters.
you have your steak dinner like the monkey game, why would you go to McDonald's?
We gotta wait for the PS5 Pro. Maybe the quality will hit it better. Speaking of that, I think you guys really want to talk about that, and I should leave.
George's like, I want to talk about
words,
something.
Not mine, not your words, not mine.
Well, it's been a pleasure hanging out with you,
thanks,
Joyce. Thank you for helping after Joe Raptor's
no
slacking. And
yeah, I've been like slacking these days, man.
Yeah.
No, it was an honor to be here and help you guys out and to talk about Outlaws. But yeah, have fun with the stream, y'all, and everybody in chat. Thank you for the.
Yeah, thanks, Joyce, and speak to you tomorrow.
Absolutely. Everyone say thank you, Joyce. Don't be late.
Wow. Meet Luke in person.
Yes, absolutely. A pleasure. Joe Raptor's
right.
so mean.
All right. See you, everybody.
Bye. Okay. We'll get the camera set up for Mr. Joe Raptor.
Okay.
And there we go. And we'll continue talking. A lovely discussion. Thank you again, Joyce, for joining and helping us out with this so that we can talk about it, since Joe Raptor viciously chose not to play it. Just so mean. After all Ubisoft has done for you too. I mean, that's what's really crazy.
What we have done for them.
After all they've paid you and for good reviews.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so it's always so funny.
Don't bring that up, because this is gonna be a Reddit post somewhere. People are gonna take it out of context.
Luke confirmed that they bought.
We already knew.
Yeah. He gave their game a 6 out of 10. They're clearly bought and paid for. I was like, apparently they need to pay me a lot more. I mean, obviously Star Wars Outlaws, pretty much said what we need to say. Again, thank you, Joyce, for that. We do have a couple of other news pieces to talk about. Kind of in the vein of our standard show.
I mean, I think this week in particular with these two releases, also Wukong on PS5, having some frame drops here and there too. It's kind of wild that we're finally this year moving to like more current gen only games. I wanted to say next gen because I know people are like, yeah, we're already in this generation for so long. It still feels right in some ways to say next gen because we had these cross-gen games for so long. But yeah, like looking at Star Wars Outlaws, that clearly, I really think like Ubisoft knows where Microsoft is still figuring that out, that 30 FPS is not good enough for a game anymore. They know they have to bring the 60 FPS, but yeah, at what cost? That's what we're seeing with these versions. I think Digital Foundry said 720p on some consoles to hit that 60 FPS. That's of course not great. And the PS5 Pro is probably going to be our savior. But also, at what cost? Because we have some price speculation and we have a rumor about the amount of storage that it will have. So of course, for people who are not familiar, it seems that, I mean, Tom Anderson, like a lot of credible sources, like Moore's Law's Dead also leaked a developer document that has been sent out to a lot of developers saying, hey, this is going to be, these are the specs for the PS5 Pro. If you want to have your game run on PS5 from, I think, September 1st, or maybe another date, but around that, onwards, then you have to be PS5 Pro certified as well. So every game starting that launches after September 1st has to work on PS5 Pro as well, which indicates that it's gonna launch very soon. And we might know the release date, but more on that in a bit. And now that, like, the Xbox, of course, not selling very well, so Microsoft was like, let's announce an Xbox Series X, 2 terabytes, $600. That's gonna win people over probably. but that is interesting that for 2 terabytes, and their hard drive was less expensive, like it's not as fast as the PS5. And you can, of course, buy these memory sticks from Seagate, I think.
I might.
And, like, 2 terabytes. Oh, what's happening?
I have one.
Oh, I have one. Ah, nice.
I got it on sale, and it is still sealed in the box.
Wow. Yeah, you're using your Xbox that much that you really need the storage.
You can see it now on camera. I've got the Series S sitting there as a decoration because I don't really have a reason to plug it in.
God. Yeah.
I
totally get that.
Yeah.
No, but the point is that a Series X 2 terabyte costing $600. What is the PS5 Pro gonna cost? Because we have once again Moore's Law's Dead saying, I mean, Moore's Law's Dead, the leaked document he shared, totally true, because Sony like did a copyright strike on his video that says everything you need to say or to know about that. But he now notes that the PS5 Pro is gonna have a 2 terabyte storage. I would be shocked if that's the case. But if that's the case, and an Xbox Series X is $600 with 2 terabyte, this machine is gonna cost $700, but probably even more.
Yeah, minimum.
Yeah,
I think they could get away with doing 1 terabyte and then just selling it as a bundled special, whatever. Because if they do, like, for example, if the PS5 Pro is like black instead of the white color scheme, I could see them doing like a special bundled NVMe SSD you can buy for another $200 and just make people pay for the extra storage separately. So I think they could get away with it that way. But I still think, even with it at 1 terabyte, I still think this thing is. I'm gonna go balls to the walls. I'm gonna say $799. I think it's real pricey.
I think it's gonna be real pricey too. But I think they're gonna go for $699 in the US and then $750 in the territories where the PS5 is $550. They did increase the price in Japan though. I think the PS5 there is now $590. Like if you so instead of like normally at this point in the life cycle, like 3.5 years in, there's already a price drop. Usually around the Slim model that they of course launched last year, but now the prices are going up. And that doesn't bode well for the PS5 Pro at all. I have some people say, I'm going to wait. I don't have a PS5 yet. I'm going to wait till the PS5 Pro. Like, you don't. Why? Like, that system is going to cost. Yeah, again, I think 800 might not. It's totally like what they're maybe going to try. Like what we saw this generation. Sony's kind of the Apple, and they don't have a lot of competition at this moment.
Yeah,
they might be like, let's see what the crazy people will pay for it.
Yeah, I mean, and at the end of the day, if you want the definitive place with the best graphics to play timed Xbox exclusives like Indiana Jones, you get that with PS5 Pro. I mean, that's where you're gonna like.
Imagine Indiana Jones being 60 on PS5 Pro and not on the Xbox.
Dude,
that would be crazy.
I think that's what it's gonna be. Yeah, unironically, I do think, and I've said this for a long time, I do think there is a market for ultra premium consoles. And I know for a long time, like 500 was the ultra premium, and like 299 was considered to be the standard. Now that's shifted. 500 is kind of the standard. The Series S is considered a budget console at 300, and it's causing problems as a result of that. But I think there is a market for the ultra premium price point, and I think people will pay it because people like the console experience and they want better graphics and frame rates. And if they can pay a few extra $100 to do it, let's just be honest, PC gamers, I'm one of you. $800 for a console, still cheaper than what you'd probably have to pay to get similar performance in a new PC. I know if you buy used parts and stuff, you can get there. But most people are not savvy enough to go onto Craigslist for their first PC and buy used parts and put something together. If somebody's buying pre-built, they probably are spending around that same price point. And if they know console games, they like the in-the-box, plug it and go experience. And I think there is a market for that if somebody just wants higher fidelity, even at a higher price point. But I think Jor's right. I think this generation very well could be the first we see like the base model not really change price point, and the premium one come in and just be more expensive.
I mean, I personally would prefer them to, and we kind of know the specs, but of course on paper it's always like, okay, but how is it gonna work in practice when we see the machine side to side with the old one? But I would prefer, because the PS4 Pro did not really feel as much of a jump as the Xbox One to the Xbox One X. And the Xbox One X was also $100 more expensive than the PS4 Pro.
Wasn't also like
PS4
a year
Pro,
later?
Yeah, it was also a year later, and the PS4 Pro was like, they were like, hey, 4K, but it was like 4K ready, or like it had the checkerboard, or was it called checkerboarding, where they kind of like up-res it, so it's still not really 4K, but you can't really see it only if you really like put it next to a real 4K image. So they kind of got away with that. But I think this time, if they're like, it's not for everyone, but it is the more like way better place to play. And if it means that I can play Star Wars Outlaws with the PC graphics still with the 60 FPS, I hope that's like, if they are asking $800, I am expecting way more than if they're going for a lower price point. But then on the other hand, why do it? Like, I really think that the PS5 is already a pretty capable machine. Although it is interesting, I don't think we've ever had a generation where already right now the PS5 is struggling with these new releases, or like the current console is struggling with these new releases, or again on the Xbox side, all the games are launching 30 FPS, while on PC, that same game launching with the 60 FPS option.
I think it begs the question, with like the Xbox One launched underpowered, right? Like, it was the weaker console compared to the PS4, and games kind of reflected that. From my understanding of people way smarter than me, the PS5 is not an underpowered console. Like, it is about in line with where it should be as a console at this point in the generation.
Yeah.
And so then you wonder, okay, well then why are all of these games struggling? Why are all of the console ports struggling? And for a while, some people speculated, oh, it's the architecture that's doing it. Oh, it's the pursuit of ray tracing and lifelike graphics and all this. But we see consistently, even games that don't have that stuff, reflecting the same problems. And I think really just what it is is that there is a lack of prioritization for optimization on the part of these big developers. And I also think there is an over reliance on some of these sort of cheat ways of hitting higher frame rates, because like the PS4 Pro, they did the checkerboarded thing to get up to 4K quote unquote. But at the end of the day, the frame rate was still what the frame rate was. You had to render 30 frames and then it could stretch that to 4K or checkerboarded 4K upscaling, but you still had to render 30 frames. With all of this like DLSS, the FSR2 upscaling technologies, all of these are kind of a crutch that devs can rely on. And yeah, it can improve frame rates by rendering way lower resolutions and then trying to upscale. But that doesn't deal with the core problem, which is that the game's not running that well. And you're just rendering it at, honestly, like 2011 resolutions and then trying to stretch it to a 4K screen. And the DLSS stuff and the FSR stuff, it is very, very impressive. It's like borderline magic when you add in things like frame generation. But I think that that's creating a crutch that a lot of devs and perhaps more specifically the publishers and the executives are relying on, where they're looking at it and they're like, so we could do 6 months of polish, or we could do 1 month of polish and just rely on FSR2 to upscale the ever-living crap out of it. And they're choosing to go the latter route because that 5-month difference represents tens of millions of dollars.
Easily, yeah.
So I think that is why like the FSR2 and the DLSS stuff, it's amazing technology, but I think it's actually harming the industry on the, like when you look at
unless like all the, like, I mean, the PS5 Pro is gonna have PlayStation's version of that, and what if the next Xbox, like, I would not be surprised if the reason why Microsoft is not launching a Pro model is because they have the next-gen console in 2 years already, what we kind of speculated before, and what have been the rumblings as well. And that console will then have that as well. So maybe at one point all these consoles will have that AI technology. Still don't think that's like a good solution, but that might be where we're going to. And yeah, that's how they try and get away with it. But right now we're at this point where, yeah, you don't want your new game that's Star Wars Outlaws like being so different because you wanna. I mean, that's kind of what sucked about this start of this generation, where we got all these PS4, Xbox One games, and then a next gen version of them on PS5. We could play all our older games in the PS5 mode and experience the 60 FPS, but those games were not the real current gen only games. So we got used to the. I mean, on PC, it's of course 60 FPS. Of course, I'm 120 FPS. I know, but on console, of course, previous generation, like you said, with PS4 Pro, that was all about resolution. That was not about frame rate. So with the next gen, like with this new generation, the console-only people are finally tasting how cool it is to experience 60 FPS for a lot of games that first did not have it. And then to get that, like, it has been taken away from us once again. And yeah, you can't go back. That's of course an issue. And yeah, now if you want to stay at 60, yeah, you have a way worse looking game that doesn't resemble all the trailer footage you saw with Star Wars Outlaws. Black Myth Wukong has quite a lot of stutters and stuff. It's not as bad as it has some moments, but it's not as bad as like one chapter in particular. I was like, okay, is this gonna be the whole game? That's a problem, but that's sadly not, or luckily not the case. But that makes me think, oh, I'm excited for the PS5 Pro. Like, I'm able, of course, we do this for a job. I'm gonna get the console day one, and I will record all my gameplay there, and it's gonna look as crazy. But for a lot of other people, that's kind of a weird situation to be in, to be 3.5 years in the generation. We're finally getting these current gen games, and it feels like you're playing a half-baked version of it most of the times, which kind of sucks.
Yeah, I just hope that the messaging gets sent very clearly to the people that make these decisions, because again, I don't think it's the fault of the individual developers that games like Black Myth or Star Wars Outlaws rely so much on upscaling to hit frame rate targets. I think it's pretty clear and self-evident that that is a decision made by the producers and the executives that decide the budgets and timelines. And so long as that's how they handle it, that's what's going to be the standard. But if gamers make it very clear, no, it needs to be optimized, that's when you'll see changes. I did a segment on the stream on Monday about Dragon Age, the Veilguard, and they have signaled very heavily that optimization has been a major priority for them. For example, they've said that they've spent 200,000 man hours working on PC optimizations. They already are Steam Deck verified, which is extremely rare 2 months ahead of launch. Like they're making it very clear, this is polished, and we're very proud of how polished it is. Whether it ends up being polished, we'll see when we actually play the game and see it. But that's at least what they're trying to make very, very clear. And what do you see? You see people gaining confidence in it. People getting more intrigued at the concept of trying a BioWare game again. Because they're saying, listen, we know we blew optimization and the tech side of things twice in a row with our last 2 games. Let us win you back by nailing it this time around. And I think that's...
Is it still Frostbite they're using, or are
Yes.
they using Unreal now? Okay, they're still using Frostbite. Okay.
Yeah. So hopefully they fixed whatever was going wrong with
Yeah,
it back in the day, but we'll see.
Exactly. I mean, I've not really looked at the new footage that much. I know you've been like watching the gameplay and stuff. I'm kind of like I'm already on board. I want to be like more hyped for it though. Right now I'm like, oh yeah, it's coming, and I hope it's good. But I do think these, like, I think they have the IGN first in September. Like they have 2 months now till launch. So I hope we get excited about it. Maybe we see it during an upcoming State of Play, because Luke, would you believe it? Sony for the last 5 years has been doing something in September, and they're doing it again.
Dun dun dun.
According to Jeff Grubb, who has been right many times before. So he now notes on his Giant Bomb podcast that there's probably going to be a State of Play, not a showcase, by the end of September. And that makes a lot of sense. Sony is for the first time in 5 years going to Tokyo Game Show in September. So yeah, they're preparing something, and that something is very likely the PlayStation 5 Pro. It's probably going to be late next month in September. But yeah, the fact that it's a State of Play and not a showcase is kind of sad, because of course earlier in the year, normally in June last year, we had a showcase. 2021 we had a showcase. 2020 we had 2 showcases. But yeah, it seems like they're going for a State of Play again. My theory on that is that really last year when they did the showcase and all the big games they were revealed were Concord, Fair Games. Oh man, Fair Games. I mean, I think the alarm bells are ringing in that studio like crazy after the Concord launch, don't you think?
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. Everybody knows how that story is about to end, and it hasn't even been shown yet.
It's so there are so many talented developers. Like these are like the veterans that worked on Assassin's Creed from the start. Like when a lot of people were like, "Oh, that was the heyday of Assassin's Creed." Like a lot of the one of the concept artists, he always shared also like all the art he did for all the Assassin's Creed games. It's brilliant. And then for them to move on to this studio where you're like, okay, you're free to make whatever you want, and you come up with this free-to-play shooter that could have been one of the 100 battle royales that Ubisoft wanted to make. It's still crazy.
Do we even know if it's free-to-play, though?
No, but it looks like it could have been one of the free-to-play Ubisoft games. That's what I'm saying. No, but
yeah.
Oh, but I'm not sure if that game is ever going to come out. Like, I really think Fair Games is done.
It looked worse than Concord
really hope
in the trailer, in my opinion.
Which is crazy. Yeah. I really hope Sony goes there. There's clearly talent here. Also at Concord, let's make something that people from our audience will actually want to play instead of trying to make something happen. But yeah, that's a side note. We might see Fair Games again. I think they're gonna go dark on that game, and we will hopefully not hear that the studio has shuttered. Like that would be crazy though, because they just bought them. Either way, again, September. State of Play. My theory on why they're going for the State of Plays is probably because when we think State of Play, we think like, it's 5 games max that I'm gonna care about, maybe less.
Yeah.
And then when they do have a cool show, everyone's like, whoa, I did not expect that. With a showcase, your expectations are like Ghost 2, new God of War, Naughty Dog's next game, Wolverine. And then when you don't see those games, you're like, oh, this showcase sucked, even though they had quite a lot of good games. So that's my theory on why they're going for State of Play now. and then hopefully blow our socks off. Although I have to be careful with that because state of play sometimes are, hey, publisher, you want to release that game and do the marketing deal? Well, we put you in our state of play and blah, blah, blah. So then you get like foam stars and all those sort of games.
I will
nobody
say,
cares about.
I have a prediction for this.
Ooh.
So obviously the inference is that we probably see PS5 Pro announced here and then released soon after.
With the release date, and we know probably when.
I think it's not even, you already tweeted this out. Okay, so it's not that big of a prediction. I was going to say, I think that Hogwarts Legacy director's cut.
Oh,
yeah. I was like, I think they can't delay that too much longer. Like, they got to just get that out.
2 years is enough.
Yeah, and so I think that probably releases in December, and then they'll have a specific look at it on the PS5 Pro, and it's gonna be like, wow, it does look so much better, because I think they've probably done a lot of work on it. Rocksteady,
I think it's
has been
launching earlier.
You think?
I think they're So one thing, like, Horizon keeps on giving best video game series ever. Did you know that there's a trend going on right now where they're launching a new Horizon experience for all our fans every year?
Ooh.
2022, we had Forbidden West. 2023, Call of the Mountain, the only Horizon game I have not finished. Burning Shores, because I just could not. Climbing mountains, man. I want to shoot them dinosaurs.
Nothing beats playing a video game and having a shoulder injury at the end of it. You know?
Yeah, it was not. I just could not do it. And we now, Lego Horizon launching this year on November 14th. And a lot of people pointed out on Twitter, I gotta give them the credit, that's a Thursday. All the Sony games usually launch on Friday, like Concord. Friday, Astrobot, I think it's launching on Friday as well. But I looked at when the PlayStation 5 came out and the consoles in general, Thursday. So high chance PS5 Pro is launching November 14th, just in time for Assassin's Creed Shadows, which is exciting. And 1 day before, Lego Horizon, 1 day before Shadows. But I would not be surprised if, like, the director's cut is on that day as well, that they might be like, look at the improved visuals on in the Great Hall. Look at all the candles. They ray trace your the candles are insane in this ray tracing thing. I would not be surprised if they do that, but yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised either, because it doesn't just help Sony, to be clear. Whenever there's a new console, whether it's a mid-gen, like, refresh, whatever, or not, if you are one of the, like, 3 to 5 games that has been tailor-made for it, you get a little boost from that, especially if you're going to release on that platform anyways. If you can get out in that time frame, people are going to buy your game just to see the next gen upgrades. If it's like a $10 upgrade, for example, from Hogwarts Legacy to the director's cut, which might be, optimistic, but even if it's just an upgrade like that, people are going to buy it just to see the improvements that the PS5 Pro can do, almost like they're paying for a tech demo to see what it's capable of. So I think it makes sense. I think it's an easy W.
It's for them, like, we were going to do this anyways, but let's pack it in with, because of course all the director's cuts that Sony did were for Death Stranding and Ghost of Tsushima, and the big features there were as well. Oh, it's now running natively on PS5. Look at the improvements. Oh, and there's new content as well. And I think Hogwarts Legacy is doing that as well, because I think directors, like, for Death Stranding, it makes a lot of sense. Director's cut, Kojima thought of some new thing. For Hogwarts Legacy, it's like, why go for that name? So I don't know. Maybe they thought it sounded cool, and Sony had some success with it, of course. But I totally think you're right. I totally think we will see that there. And I think the Spider-Man 2 DLC too. Like, that was already in the menu when the dev build got leaked in one of the updates. And at one point during the Insomniac leak, we learned that they were planning to do, like, sort of a roadmap where every quarter they would drop, like, new missions. I would not be surprised if they're like, we're releasing it all in one go. Here's Spider-Man 2 Director's Cut, or whatever they're gonna call it. PS5 Pro enhancements. Bam, November 14th. So a lot of things probably happening that week, which would be kind of interesting and exciting in a way. But yeah, apart from that, Monster Hunter Wild still needs a release date. Tokyo Game Show, it will be playable there again. But
I think
yeah.
I think I mean your crazy predictions.
Yeah.
What likelihood do you put on these? We'll go through these one by one for everybody listening, okay? So these are Joe Raptor's crazy predictions of things that
for the state of play in September for the PS5 Pro.
Mm-hmm. So to be clear, are you saying that you think these could launch on November 14th as well? Like these are part of the launch?
No. I think maybe.
Or just around.
I really think
maybe just shown off with
I mean, I really think that what they're gonna show at this state of play, like I would argue myself that if you're launching an $800 machine or $700, we don't know what it's gonna cost, but it's gonna be in that range, that you need to convince people that, hey, we have cool shit coming for the next couple of years. But the state of play is always, let's look at the next couple of months. So that's why I'm like, and one of the things is Ghost of Tsushima 2. Like, Sony needs to show one of their AAA or quadruple A, if you will, games that's gonna look insanely good. And I think Death Stranding 2 is probably what they're gonna choose. Because I'm not sure if you saw, but there were creators and press got invited to Kojima Studios, and they're doing like a Tokyo Game Show big event as well. So I think they're gonna, maybe announce. Maybe it's coming sooner than we think, which would be crazy. But that seems to be like the next big game, and that's on the Decima engine, of course, from Horizon. So it's already looking pretty, and that could be a big PS5 Pro showcase title. But I do think a lot of people kind of wrote like Death Stranding 2 off if they did not like the first game. So I really think it's going to be a rebirth situation where I'm not sure if people are gonna jump into Death Stranding 2 as their first time playing Death Stranding. I hope I'm wrong, but I'm not seeing that game doing very well.
I think you're right. And the story this time around seems to be somehow even less coherent. So I think you're right. I think everybody who liked Death Stranding will play it. But if it's just to be perfectly honest with everybody, if it's another 80, 90 hour game and it's like kind of slow, it's not something you can really stream easily. Like, I don't really foresee making a lot of content on it. Also because some people that are really, really into Kojima stuff are a little toxic and kind of suck the fun out of it. But I think that it maybe not, it might not be the big console seller that they might depend on it to be, but I think at the very least it'll look pretty.
So for example, on PSN profiles, which is like people have to log in to have their like trophy data synced, I think, with this website. But if we look there, we see that I think episode 14, unless it was like an epilogue or something, either way it says that 31, and that's like generous because there's also like episode 14 for 13%, but let's say 31% finished Death Stranding on this website, and this like hardcore PlayStation fans. I think if I'm gonna look at PlayStation, it's maybe 25% finished the game. The game sold 5 million copies. That's not a big audience that you have right there, but the Rebirth figured it out the hard way, so we will see. But again, it's gonna be a big showcase title for them for sure. But you want to have Ghost 2 as well. Like, that already looked insane on PS5 with the director's cut. Even on PS4, it looked great. PC version, of course, launched this year. You would hope it's time for that, right? You would hope.
Yeah,
I think Ubisoft is like, please don't.
Well, you just need something to grow the tent, to expand it. And I think you're right in your estimation that Death Stranding 2 probably doesn't do that, like Rebirth, where the hardcore fans will be super into it. But more people buy Death Stranding 2 than bought Death Stranding 1? I don't think so, because I think most people, like a lot of people bought Death Stranding 2 out of curiosity. And then when they played it, were kind of unenthused. Literally every member of my direct friend group that we play like D&D with, and like we're giga nerds, I am the only one that finished Death Stranding. Everyone else that bought it didn't bother finishing it because they got a few hours in and were like, I'm good. They're not buying the second game.
No.
Not at launch, at least. So I think you're right. But as for your crazy predictions, which definitely make you sound totally crazy, I'll just say at the outset.
That's why I said crazy. Yeah.
Something God of War Atreus related.
Yeah. I'm
in
gonna
parentheses, yes, I will keep saying it.
Yeah, because I will keep saying it. If you finished Ragnarok, you know.
Yeah, I mean they very clearly like pitch the ball up for Atreus to then go and dunk it. I've tried. I spent like a day digging into like the social media of some of the actors and actresses that I would assume could be in it to see if they've ever posted anything that's like just in a motion capture. Like I've waited to see if there's anything like that. I didn't see anything that was particularly intriguing.
I think the Atreus actor has been like on red carpets teasing like things. I mean, obviously he's gonna be in whatever the next big game is gonna be, but it would be very weird to leave Kratos in such a great spot after the Valhalla DLC and then pick up Atreus at the end of Ragnarok to then go into the new. It's possible, but it felt like he had a big story to tell first.
Oh, you could do all sorts of cool things even to set up the next game where it's like Atreus gets a little mini game that's maybe just 15 hours, 20 hours long, just something a little shorter. And,
I totally think it's gonna be that. I think it's like Miles Morales level. Yeah.
But like he goes off to save some giants or something, and then he's in some sort of crazy dimensional rift, or maybe he gets transported, and then it ends with him getting kind of maybe kidnapped by Anubis or something. And
like they could tease, this is where it's gonna lead. Yeah.
You could do something like that. That could be super, super cool.
And they still need to make a PS5 only game. Like Ragnarok, Fall DLC was both on PS4. Like that was, of course, one of the like for a lot of these studios. It was also like a way to already toy around with the PS5. For the Frozen or Guerrilla, of course, with their Burning Shores DLC, also ditched PS4 to go to PS5 and make that DLC only work on that platform to really go for the bells and whistles that they're probably going to use for Horizon 3 as well. I totally think this game is going to have that too. Like Sony, but that's kind of where I'm like kind of. I still think it's gonna happen. This like such a, because I don't think we get a new God of War like a Ragnarok type experience this generation. I don't see that happen, especially as people are saying in the chat here as well. Cory Barlog is working on a new IP as well, and Sony said the Monica is big, but I'm not sure if they can make two big AAA games at the same time. But I do think they can make the Atreus game and then have a lot of people work on the new IP from Cory. After that Atreus game, those people go help, finish that in hopefully 2-3 years. And then like a smaller team is already thinking, of course, what the next God of War will be, which will be on PS6. I think that's probably maybe what's going to happen. I do think, like Sony, again, Burning Shores DLC, Miles Morales, they've been toying around with these smaller games. It's working for them. And I do think this makes sense, because I also think they look at the God of War series and they're like, we have to make sure that it's beyond Kratos, that we cannot really rely on this character all the time.
And I think they also don't want to get into a Fallout situation where there's like 20 years between major releases. Like, they want to tap that franchise more frequently, which I think they're going to be much more successful than BGS has been with it.
I see a lot of people like, and I think I did a poll on that as well, and it was like 50-50 about people saying, I would like an Atreus game, and people were like, no, I don't. And that was also, I think, what the game director said, looking at their sort of metrics in terms of what people liked about Ragnarok and not, and like the half liked the Atreus parts and the other half did not really like it. So I do think they like that is the only reason why I'm like, maybe they're not doing it, because they don't think they can sell a game like that. But on the other hand, I think if you would ask people, do you want a Miles Morales game after Spider-Man? They're like, no, I want to play Peter, and Miles could be like a side character. But
at the same time, I think they play fundamentally differently. Like Miles Morales, if anything, you'd be like, so it'd play like Spider-Man, but it's just a different Spider-Man, effectively. Okay.
But they're gonna give him the sword, and they're gonna give him like that. That's what one of the things that the game director Eric Williams said as well. That a lot of people were like, give him the sword already in Ragnarok, and he was like, no, we're gonna make him hit with the bow, because then he will, like, the next time we see him, he will be way cooler and
you have somewhere to
go.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. I think they could, like, to be clear, I think that this could be really good. They're obviously smart enough to know, like, you can't just take Atreus from God of War Ragnarok and then make that into a whole game.
No.
It just was not
No.
enough. But I think they're well aware of that, as the director alluded to. So I think when they do bring it, if they do, it'll be much more expansive than we would have expected.
Yeah.
But I also think it will be really interesting to see if a God of War game can do well without Kratos.
Yeah, I think that's what they're also and that's why I think the Valhalla DLC was also free, and here you still have your Kratos experience, because if they did not do that and immediately came out with Atreus, people were like, what the heck, I want to play Kratos. And now they're like, we gave you everything with Kratos, had a very nice ending, let us try this. And I think through it, for example, with Mjolnir, like, we all wanted to play with Mjolnir, it did not make sense for Kratos to wield the weapon. Here, let's give you another character that has it. So maybe if you like can switch between characters, which could be cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not sure if that's gonna launch this year. On the other hand, like, all these DLCs do launch 2 years later. But we have like rumors that Sony is like, do we want to release the PS5 Pro this year because we don't have like this big tentpole AAA title? On the other hand, a $50 Atreus game would not like really count probably as that. I still hold hope. I think there are many signs that there's something there, so that's why I still put it there. But like, that would be crazy, right? And then
That would be a
it's
great
launching
one more thing.
November 14th. Yeah.
Yeah. What could also be certainly the most impressive console seller that could, I mean, it sold out Xboxes across at least a couple Walmarts. Starfield. What do you think is the over under on Starfield coming to PS5? Potentially even this
it's gonna
year.
happen. It's gonna happen 100%. And with them announcing Indiana Jones like they did, I think all bets are off that they could show up at a State of Play. That's where kind of that idea is coming from, with how I still find that moment at Gamescom where they were like, oh, and one more thing. I, by the way, saw a compilation, I'm not sure if you saw it, from Xbox, like, elitists that were streaming the event. And they were like, oh, yeah, okay, oh, it's not coming to PlayStation. Nice, man. And then, but we have one more thing. And they were like, oh, nice, whoa. PS5 Spring. And what the? They were like,
I would see that. I need to see that.
Funny.
Can somebody in
so
chat
funny.
go and look for that compilation? I need that.
They were so sad, but it was such a middle finger to those people.
Well, and it was
like,
such a weird, like, they presented it as if it was like, and it's free or something. Like,
yeah, there's something more value if you are on Xbox, but instead,
yeah, it was really weird.
Oh my god.
Ghost of Tsushima 2, although that seems more like a showcase thing.
Yeah, that's kind of my like, again, if it's State of Play, like I don't think we've seen a big, again, like Wolverine was the last big AAA Sony owned game that they revealed in terms of single player. That is still not out. Because they don't own Death Stranding, of course, like Kojima Productions is not like a PlayStation studio. So that's crazy. And that was 2021, but that was a showcase. So I just don't think, I think Ghost, they're gonna save that for a showcase, because then you can call it a showcase and get away with it, right? If you show Ghost. But yeah, you would hope that with the PS5 Pro. But yeah, Sony, knowing Sony, they're right now really they're kind of like pushing it. They're seeing what can we get away with? What if we just do this State of Play, announce the PS5 Pro, put it out in store for $800. Let's see what happens. And then we can always
they're gonna have fair
price
games.
drop it.
So I mean, I think my gut's telling me the reason it's not a showcase and it's just a State of Play. I think it's because they are gonna show fair games, and I think they're probably gonna reveal it differently than they did with Concord. You thought they were gonna basically indefinitely delay Concord.
I know. I really thought so, but was I wrong? Like, look at what happened.
Oh,
this
yeah.
is like, how could they? I really think, and this might sound crazy, I think they did not even get their marketing budget back.
Because
they paid people, and they had the cinematic trailer. They had the. I would be shocked.
We went on to SteamDB, where they have purchase estimations based on player counts and a bunch of algorithms they run. Taking a conservative, honestly, a more aggressive average of what the 3 sites estimate the sales were, we got a number of roughly 15,000 copies sold. And assuming they all bought it at full price at 40, that's, some people buying deluxe, that's anywhere from $600,000 to maybe $800,000. And that's just PC. Double or triple it to count in PlayStation. They maybe brought in a couple $1,000,000, maybe a few.
But PS5 seems to be more, because I think you can like rate the game there, and I think you can only rate it if you bought it, and there are like 7,000 ratings, or more. I think there might be more.
But even that, like
right
7,000.
Oh, that's not a lot.
Yeah. If we're saying 15,000 people bought it on PC, and then PlayStation gamers, I don't know. Even if you round up and you say that they made 5 to 10 million, I don't think that covers that marketing budget. I mean, they've been marketing it for a while with some pretty expensive stuff.
Yeah. That cinematic trailer cost them probably a few million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
easily.
I think, but like, I think this is just where we kind of diverged. You said that they were going to delay it because you were assuming they were thinking rationally and they were in touch with the gaming community that clearly was not going to support this.
I really thought, looking at their I was wrong, and I saw 53 Nights say I was totally. I'm not saying
but
that I
I'm not
wrong, but
I'm not saying that like you're bad for being wrong. I think you're making the rational conclusion. My point is, I think that Sony is or the people in charge at Sony with these live service games are so out of touch that they thought they really could brute force their way through the negativity and the poor reception and still find success at $40 with all this. So I think that they're still looking at it like, okay, the reason Concord failed was just because there were some haters on social media. So Fair Games, we'll put that out, and maybe we'll release this one at $30 or $20 instead. I think that they are what's the term? Foolhardy enough to think that could actually work. So my gut's telling me they're still going to reveal Fair Games. It's going to be demolished online, and they're going to be like, well, I just don't know where we went wrong. And it's going to be kind of sad to see because they've spent so much money on it at this point. But I really think they're going to still brute force it. And I think that's why it's like a state of play. And then I think they will probably show a couple of other things like Death Stranding and stuff like that. But I think that they're going to probably lead off with Fair Games.
Yeah, I don't know. You're probably right, because that seems to be what they're trying to do. They wanted 12 live service games before the end of March 2026, and they knew that they were not going to be hits. So this was maybe part of the plan all along, to just keep trying, and then maybe have a Helldivers or maybe have a Concord.
Yeah, it's not great when your corporate like philosophy, what drives your decisions to fund certain projects? It's a new thing. It's called hoping to God people like it out of nowhere. Exactly. Like that is the extent of it. So I do think that we'll see some cool stuff, but I think there's also going to be probably one gigantic $ shaped cringe reveal. But speaking of the opposite of cringe reveals, what is a revelation that The Witcher 4 is set to enter full production soon. And just to clarify, I know some people are like, didn't they already say this? What they said was that it was in pre-production. Pre-production is the state in game development where there's a lot of pre-production going on. So they're trying to figure out what is going to be in the game, establishing scope, researching, developing technologies that are going to be utilized in it. And then once it enters full production, you have like the full team of quest designers, level designers, artists, everybody comes on board using those tools, and then they just start realizing it. And apparently they are nearly at the end of that pre-production phase, and they're about to hit the ground running. And it seems like they're on track. I mean, this is right.
A team of over 400 developers. It was set in March. And they're probably gonna have even more. I think the overall CD Projekt Red count is now at 1100 something, 1130 or something. So I mean, we also heard that the Cyberpunk sequel that they want to develop at the same time, which is new for CDPR, of course, and they want to try and have 2 games because they have like the US studio now, which is gonna make the Cyberpunk game, and in Poland they're gonna make The Witcher. So yeah, they hope that they can have like not a lot, like probably like The Witcher 4. I mean, if they're entering full production right now, it's 2024. 2027 is the earliest they can hit this.
Yeah.
I think they said they don't want the same scope as Witcher 3. Like they don't want to like, because it's gonna be part of another trilogy. So I also think they said when they like announced this new saga that they didn't want to do DLC. They just immediately want to move on to the next game. Of course, that was all to appease shareholders in the moment when they needed to hear it, because Cyberpunk wasn't in a great state, of course, at launch. But yeah, I think 2027, I think they're going to wait till the New Horizon it gets like a release date, and then they're going to be 1 week after that. That's what I think. You know it's true. You know it's true.
No, with Horizon's luck, they'll like be very cautious. They'll be like, okay, guys, we're not going to announce our game until after like we know everything that's there, and then everything gets announced. They announce it for like early February 2028 or whatever, and then From Software will come out and be like, Bloodborne 2 releasing the day before or something, and they're going to be totally screwed, because it's honestly at this point, it's like the saying, once is an occurrence, twice is a coincidence, 3 times is a pattern. If they do this 3 times in a row with their game launching next to some of the biggest games,
I mean, Lego Horizon is launching 1 day before Assassin's Creed Shadows. I mean, it's kind of a different audience, but for me, I'm not gonna play the Lego game anymore. At least not at launch. I would have I wanted to do like a stream where I was playing through it like in one sitting, because I think it's like 8 hours, so that's possible. But no, I will be in Japan. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I don't know what their deal is. And it would be one thing. The games still sell well, don't get me wrong. Like, they sell millions of copies, absolutely. But I think it's fair to say they would have done even better if they didn't launch next to Breath of the Wild and didn't launch next to Elden Ring.
It's more the conversation as well. Like, those were 2 of the games that finally pushed the open world genre that we've been like, kind of getting tired of forward, like with a ton of cool new systems. Exploration is like at the forefront. And then Forbidden West in particular really did not take a lot of bets and was really the kind of experience that we already had in the previous generation. And maybe if it like came out in a vacuum without this other releases, we would have been like, yeah, but the dinosaurs are awesome. And I still thought that, of course. But now 1 week later, you're playing this Elden Ring, you're like, what the heck? This is next level. So that didn't help, I think.
Yeah. So Witcher 4 is in the works. Or about to be in the works. It's happening. Yeah. And
what do you think release window?
Somebody asked me this like a couple weeks ago. They're like, do you think we get it this generation? Honestly,
I think so.
I think we probably get a cross-generational launch. It might be one of the last big things to launch on this gen. But I do think that we'll probably get it this gen and then get a next gen port. I think it'll be very similar to Cyberpunk's launch, where it'll be right around that time.
But that would be crazy though, because like, if you then think about it, like Witcher 3 came out 2015 and Cyberpunk came out 2020. And CDPR was really like, we don't want the same like distance between releases anymore. And that would be 2020 till 2028, because that's probably when the new PlayStation is coming out. Again, we don't know about Xbox, but do you really think they're going to aid? I mean, they had the Phantom Liberty, of course, which helped.
I think it's tough.
8 years is a long time.
It's a very long time, but I think that for one, COVID kind of skews it. You basically lost probably 1.5 years, 2 years. They also were doing a lot of structural reorganization. So they were figuring out how to properly develop teams at this, or games at this scale with the teams that they had. So I just think like there was a lot of groundwork that needed to be done. I've looked at the shareholder reports and like investor questions and stuff that's been asked of them. And it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of, I mean, of course, investors want stuff, but I think investors also understand that they can't have another Cyberpunk rushed game. So I think a lot of investors and shareholders right now are like, we're not happy it's going to take a long time, but we're confident if you can put something out at the quality of Phantom Liberty, that on the scale of a major tentpole release, that will blow up and be huge. So
it's gonna be the cadence, like because it seems that when the new Witcher comes out, they will be already in full production on the new Cyberpunk game. So that should then be Perfect World 2 years later.
Yeah.
So that's the cadence that they want. And then the new Witcher game 2 years after. So like 4 years for these games. That's ambitious, but seems like, again, I see people in the chat, yeah, they're using Unreal Engine 5 now instead of their own tech. So
and that's one thing, is if they're entering pre-production now, the expectation is that all the groundwork for the technology and systems that they need is basically set, and they're going to start running with Unreal Engine 5 point whatever. And just like, we saw Cyberpunk featured by Nvidia for all of their ray tracing stuff, all the ray tracing demos, overdrive, everything was used by Nvidia for marketing their stuff. I think it's going to be the same thing with Epic Games, where they're going to pour all of their money and resources into making that next Witcher game look and run amazing, because it will be basically a testament to their engine. It's probably going to be a selling point on their engine to a lot of other big studios. If it pops off and is technologically one of the most impressive games of all time, that bodes very well for the Unreal Engine. So I think you're going to see more money pumped into the tech side of this than most games on this scale. I mean, it's going to be huge.
Yeah, no, for sure.
A lot's riding on it. But I do think it takes a while. Do you think they get it out before then? Do you think it's 2027?
I think they're aiming for that internally, probably. But or like early 2028. So I do think it's gonna be PS5, Xbox Series, and then like a version later for the new consoles, unless the new Xbox, of course, launches earlier. But yeah, I think they're trying to get it out before the end of the generation.
And I mean, let's be honest, especially if it's a technical powerhouse, let's say they get it out 2027, and then the next year the PS6 launches and the next Xbox might already be out, might not. They can then launch it again, and I think it's going to sell gangbusters again, assuming it's good, if there's actual improvements. So
I think the next gen version for Witcher 3 did very well as well. So yeah, they're probably looking at that.
I remember my videos on it did surprisingly well for being just an update to a game that's like at that point 8 or 9 years old.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, everyone, we're old. We're very old. Yeah. So all told, there's some exciting stuff happening in the industry. I do think we're going to see some interesting stuff in September from PlayStation. Interesting, not necessarily meaning good, but I do think we'll see some interesting stuff.
I mean, they so far, and that's kind of like, as someone who's also covered like PlayStation extensively on the channel, I could do usually like videos on this game and kind of speculate during the PS4 generation, like almost every month, like have something interesting to say. So they've been very boring. Like, it makes financial sense for them. They're gonna launch Astrobot. It might win Game of the Year. Like, that's gonna probably be a very good game. Concord is a miss. On the other hand, Helldivers is super pop. Like, that's the best-selling game in the US this year. So I mean, they're doing super or relatively well. Like, all the other consoles, Switch, Xbox, are also down. They are down as well, but not as much. GTA 6 next year, they got nothing to worry about. But you sometimes forget that they have like 20 studios that are working on exclusive games, and we really don't know a lot about any of those games.
Yeah.
So yeah, I hope they. But yeah, that's what you saw with Concord. Like, that was not a smart decision to announce that 3 months before. And they did it with Astrobot as well. But that seems to be their tactic. Like, Ghost 2 next year, September, State of Play. Or maybe like the June one. Here it is, October, it's out. Have fun.
Mm-hmm. No, I think once PlayStation opens that floodgate, there's going to be
It's going to get crazy. Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are expecting it to open next year with Ghost.
Yeah, but I also think they're, again, I would be shocked. And maybe I have them like higher than what we saw with the Concord launch. But I would be shocked if they are not like, should we even go through with Fair Games? Should we even try it?
I mean, I think at this point, they showed... I think Fair Games was shown at the same time as Concord's initial review, right?
Last year during the showcase, yeah.
So they're presumably in about the same state, similar at least. So it's got to be pretty close, if not fairly close to ready. And at that point, like, I wouldn't necessarily blame them if they're like, let's launch it at 40, just try to get some money for it and then move on. Like, it's not gonna.
Yeah. Or they're learning from Concord and being like, okay, we're gonna announce or like do the create, get people into an early version of the game, get like closed betas going. Like that's what Concord needed. They had way longer. If they wanted to make this a thing, had to build an audience for a longer time, have people in, and then be like, okay. We can launch it like this, but we have this enormous list of feedback from what people actually want. Let's delay it a year, launch with those things, and have a higher chance. Mm-hmm. But
it's very, very possible
they didn't have time for that.
They could be doing like closed consultations now, for all we know. I mean, you never know. Oh, yeah. I know there were stories of people that went and were trying like Dragon Age Veilguard. Like a year or two ago, people were consulting on that. So you never know what's going on behind the scenes. I can say I've not done anything like that. It would be really funny if they invited me to consult on fair games. It'd be so funny. It's like, what do you think? And I'm just
to be honest, I don't think that would be a bad idea. But just to know what the type of videos will be that you will make, to just be like, okay, we can get ahead.
They keep me like separated by plexiglass from the rest of the studio, like a caged animal. I do think like with a lot of this stuff, there's been, instances I've heard of pretty big games from major studios where they've invited creators in, not necessarily to give direct feedback on the game, but to give impressions on what the community will think. Because they might be like, oh, the game's too far along to really change it. What should we expect in terms of reception of the broader public? Because they want to know with the marketing team how they should handle it. And I mean, I think with fair games, it's pretty self-explanatory. But then again, they
don't have to. Yeah, they can already look at it.
Yeah, I mean,
no one talking about it.
I've heard people optimistic about Concord before it launched. I haven't heard a single person that looked at fair games and thought that looked good. Like, but that was
when the Concord trailer was a hamburger in space, right? Like, we didn't see anything, and it was just like, oh, they bought the studio, so they must believe in it. But that doesn't mean anything anymore. Like, Fair Games is already it already has an even taller hill to climb than Concord, because for Concord we were still like, oh, this is kind of new. Mm-hmm. We trust Sony with these types of things. So
yeah, I think a lot of the trust, especially after Bungie blows it, and then the Last of Us project's canceled and they wasted like 4 years on it. And then like just across the board, they have Helldivers, but even Helldivers for a lot of PlayStation fans, like Helldivers was not that successful on, well, it was successful. It was not as successful on PlayStation as it was on PC. It was primarily a PC game that popped off. And even then, a lot of the community has been livid with how they've handled it in the post-launch support. So I don't know. It's just
the comments under the Fair Games YouTube channel or the reveal trailer.
Dude,
you can take the devs out of Ubisoft, but you can't take the Ubisoft out of the devs.
Yeah, I dare you. Try to find one positive comment.
God. Thanks to all our players, we are unfortunately ending support, and 1 year later, vibes to it.
Yeah. Let's look at this. I'm gonna try to find one positive comment. Let's do this real quick. Live demo. Okay. This one's just from 4 days ago. Another Concord with the same fate. When will marketing teams learn that it's better not to waste development budget on a CGI trailer that means nothing when you can wait and show us what the game will actually play like? Billion-dollar company makes a game about how rich people are bad. Eat the Rich creates a games as a service game with a seasonal battle pass and millions of microtransactions. Eat the Rich gamers just ignore the fact that we showed our game in a mega corporation sizzle reel presentation. Oh, and pay us $70. New Gen Z marketing ploy just dropped. I'm almost 40, but even I am getting how do you feel, fellow kids vibes. Looks so bad. Eat the Rich makes the game $70. I'm yet to see a scenario where a gang of diverse high schoolers fighting the corporations is not cringe. I did not ask for this.
We can be here for a long time. I don't think you're gonna find one. I'm already scrolling. Sony's Jim Ryan wanted the Redfall as well.
Yeah, dude, it's unbelievable. TikTok the shooter. Concord jumped so that Fair Games could dive. Dude, that's unironically really good. I love that. Concord jumped so Fair Games could dive. I just, again, this is one of those cases where I think we all know how the story ends, but it's like those people that were telling like coming to the comment section of my Concord video, and they're like, Luke, do you feel bad that you've caused another game to flop with your negative coverage? I was like, for one, you think way too much of me. I do not have that much influence. The reason the videos are doing well is because people feel this way and just want to hear somebody put into words what they feel, which is what my video is able to do. It's a reflective thing. It's a descriptive thing, not a prescriptive thing. Okay. But I think some people don't understand that. With fair games, there will be plenty of videos I'm sure I'll make trying the game, and it's if it ever sees the light of day. But those will be descriptive in describing how bad it is and why people feel the way that they do about it. And we can see it from a trailer.
Let's keep an open mind. Let's keep an open mind. I don't know if it's going to be bad. We will see, but it's not looking good. It has the writing on the wall ever since it was revealed, and now with Concord even more, because I hope they learn. I think Herman Hulst knows better. He knows. But maybe he's like, but I gave them the green light. Let's see this through.
I think the best lesson they could learn for this to have a chance is make it free to play. Like at the very least, do that, and you could expect at least people to try it.
I see that comment with Concord as well, and I'm like, but did you forget about the open beta? That nobody played.
But to be clear, people already knew that it was $40 at that point. So they knew I can try this game for free. And even then, if I like it, I have to pay $40. It's almost like I'm punished for liking it.
Fair enough.
So if they go free to play from the outset,
it's like the dealer thing, right? You get like one sip for free, and then the next one.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We will see. But hey, they got the microtransaction store in October with season 1. It's gonna be glorious,
dude. There's gonna be so many okay skins. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. Okay.
But yeah, you said last week that we are not gonna talk about Concord again, and I was like, I don't believe it. I mean, I thought that in my head, and here we are. So if you like that and the rest of the show where we actually talk about other games that we do actually like to play, consider going to the Spotify app. I heard from someone who said that you need to listen for at least 10 minutes in Spotify before you can give us a 5-star review. So what I want you to do is, if you were unable to like give us the 5-star on your grandmother's phone or like your mother's phone, hit the play button, leave the phone there, like put something over it or something, like volume down so they don't know. And then after 10 minutes, come back and give us still the 5-star review. So
I will say, I don't know. I haven't read the terms of service on Spotify. I am like 99% sure, though, that probably breaks a lot of the terms of service. So I'll say, don't do that.
Oh.
Don't. If you did, we didn't tell you to, but like, don't do that.
Oh yeah. Oh
don't.
No, I wasn't saying like that. I thought like, I think your mother will like this show as well. Like you're doing her a service of like putting it in her Spotify, like recently listened to.
Oh yeah.
That's what I was like talking.
Oh yeah. No, of course we're just spitballing here. I mean, that's
yeah. But 265 right now. You know who you are if you gave the 5 stars. We appreciate you a lot, and we're gonna keep that number up. And at one point, when we're all old and unable to hold a controller, we will hopefully get back to the 5-star. But
one day,
sooner than that.
One day. Yeah. Well, fam, it's been a pleasure talking with all of you. A wonderful time speaking with Joyce as well, a special guest. Yes. I do think
first special guest on the show.
Mm-hmm. When I said on stream earlier, I was like, "Can we have a special guest?" The comments were like, "Oh, you got Todd Howard? You actually got?" I was like, "No, guys, I don't think he'd join us."
Todd Howard, what do you think of Star Wars Outlaws?
Yeah.
That would be a very interesting discussion. Though.
Yeah, what do you think of Star Wars Outlaws, and why is it better than Starfield? Oh man, but we're gonna rock and roll. We've got lots of stuff to talk about in the coming weeks, and I cannot wait to share some of that. In September, I will be traveling a fair bit, so I think we will have some podcasts in new and exciting locations.
Really?
Which should be interesting. But we should still be able to do all the regular streams and stuff. Just a little heads up for everybody else. But until next time, everybody, let's oh right, we gotta check super chats real quick because we've been in the yes. Yeah. Thank you for telling us. Bender the Offender, still an amazing username. Thank you for the membership. Blake, thank you for the 2. Jor was playing Dustborn instead of Outlaws. Yeah, have you seen that game, Dustborn?
Yeah, I saw like Luke Stevens live or something made a video on it.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely a Game of the Year contender. Not really.
I never heard about it, but I think we talked about this once. How it looked like another game that actually did look cool, and then you said, "Oh, is it like this?" And then I don't know.
Yeah,
but, no.
I've seen. If you get a chance to just watch that stream clip. Everybody, by the way, just, and hit the subscribe button while you're at it. I recommend it because it is so bad. I thought it was a parody. Like like no joke. I thought people were making clips of like a fake game, doing fake voice overs. I thought they were like photoshopping stuff. I thought it was fake. It is so bad. Like, not only do the characters just like openly manipulate people into killing each other, and then like pretend like they're the good guys. Like they openly, they have abilities to like cause somebody to become triggered or to be triggered themselves as like a power up ability. Like it is a hilarious game unintentionally, and it is baffling. So we were joking earlier that that's what you were playing instead of Outlaws.
Oh yeah, that's what it is. Yeah. No, I do think I would prefer Outlaws over that.
Only one way to find out. You got to play it. Samaya, also thank you for the super chat. Black Myth Wukong needs to be renamed.
I don't want you to read this one. It has the forbidden words in it. We cannot talk about that anymore. And I'm sorry about that. And I got a lot of angry people in the comments under the previous podcast. They were like, they are characters, not skins. But I don't want to like, and I had to like tell those people that were joking that if you like Dragon Ball, you're crazy, but we don't care. Like you can be crazy. We don't care.
It's the land of the free, home of the brave, and also exactly. Crazy. Yeah.
So just enjoy your game. I hope it comes out because then we have to never talk about it again.
I will say, I mean, Jor Raptor's hatred for Dragon Ball is known far and wide. And, he even, you were telling me before the stream started that you actually paid to take out billboards across the globe. That's where most of your YouTube check went to just spread the message of how terrible Dragon Ball is. Which I thought that was maybe not a great use of money, but, of course it's your right.
No, but I'm saving people, right? Like if they are not gonna be engaged with Dragon Ball, they will have a better life. So it's for the greater good. And sometimes when I like walk over the street, I like, what the heck? And then I have like a person with like these huge yellow spikes, like these blonde hair spikes, beating me up, and I'm like, what's that about? So that reaffirms my stance that I should wash this world of the Dragon Ball virus.
The Dragon Ball virus. Okay, now I need to get you a T-shirt or something, or like I don't even know. We'll figure it out. That's wonderful. Thank you, Samaya, for the super chat.
Another one. It's nice.
Oh man. Let's see. I like Dragon Ball. I'm crazy. It's hot in Florida. Oh well, you're in Florida, so there you go. Do we need to say more?
There's always an explanation for people liking that. Like they're like hot in Florida. Like
most of them are in Florida. Yep.
I mean, it's like very expensive to like put down billboards there. I know that for a fact.
Experienced that. Yeah. Worth it though. Worth it.
It's very, very worth.
Thank you, everybody. Let me double check the Twitch side of things. Thank you, Nazarati, I think for the sub. I think that was also earlier on the earlier stream, but still, nonetheless, thank you. Thank you, everybody who followed. Thank you to all the new subs. You guys are amazing. We'll be back next week, rocking and rolling. I'll see you very, very soon.
Yeah. Let me know if you're gone or not, because I feel like I'm missing out.
Okay. We'll talk about it. We'll figure it out.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody. Much love. Bye-bye.
It was very nice. Goodbye.
Bye.